package includes more critical air defense capabilities such as National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems and additional systems to help Ukraine shoot down Russian and Ukrainian drones.
This is my video update from Moscow, Russia on this Thursday morning, July the 20th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the Russian Ministry of Defense coming out with a statement yesterday saying that any ships entering the port in Odessa will be considered to be carrying weapons and war supplies. And the assumption is that any ships entering the port of Odessa would get annihilated by the Russian military. So can we call this a blockade now that the grain deal is over, at least for now? And we'll get into a statement that Putin made. But for now, the grain deal is over, and it looks like Russia is going to prevent any ships from entering the port of Odessa, because those ships that were entering the port of Odessa apparently were carrying weapons, and they were leaving with grain. Is that how this whole thing went down? They would bring in the weapons and leave with the grain? I don't know. But the statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense, pretty clear, pretty strong statement. They're not going to put up with any more of these violations of agreements from the Zelensky regime and the collective West. The White House, they came out with a statement, Kirby as well as Karine Jean-Pierre, and they said that when they were asked by reporters if they were going to escort ships entering the Odessa port, they both said that the White House, the Biden White House, is not going to be doing such things for the time being. They said right now the White House is not considering escorting ships into the port of Odessa. Turkey has also said that they're not going to take any actions as far as escorting ships to the port of Odessa. So, checkmate from the Russians. And my thoughts on this is that this may have been a type of judo move from Russian President Vladimir Putin, in that he gave one warning after the first bridge strike in Crimea: stop smuggling weapons into the Odessa port, stop using the grain corridor as a launching pad to strike into Odessa. He gave the one warning, knowing that the collective West and the Zelensky regime would not heed his warning, and they would do it again. And sure enough, they did it again. And this has given the Russian government, you could say, an excuse, a reason, a very good reason, to now prevent ships from entering the Odessa port. And when they go to their international partners and their allies, say the BRICS nations, they can't condemn Russia for preventing ships from entering the Odessa port, because Putin can now go to them and say, look, we gave them a warning. We told them on multiple occasions, don't bring weapons into Odessa port. Don't launch attacks from the grain corridor onto Crimea. We gave them warnings. We gave them many months to adhere to the agreements of the grain deal. They wouldn't listen to us. So we have to take these actions, and Brazil and India and China, South Africa, and much of the global South are going to say, yeah, we feel you. We understand exactly what you're going through. So prevent the ships from entering the ports because you've got to protect Crimea, Russian territory. So I think this was, in a way, a type of chess move from Putin, knowing that the Zelensky regime, they would not honor the agreements of the grain deal, and they would eventually, through their obsession with Crimea and their compulsion to launch these attacks towards Crimea and towards Russian territory, they knew this was going to happen again. And the minute it happened, they said, over. Grain deal over, grain corridor over, ships entering Odessa port over. And not only that, the Russians are dismantling the Odessa port. The weapons and storage facilities in Odessa, the Russians are striking those facilities and they are destroying them. We had another night of missiles hitting the Odessa port. That's 3 nights in a row. And actually, one video came out of a missile hitting Odessa, and the young man that filmed this video, it went viral and everyone was sharing it on social media. But the young man that filmed this video, the Ukraine authorities, they arrested this guy. They made him apologize to all of Ukraine, and then they sent him to the front lines. That's the story that is coming out now with regards to this video that went mega viral of a missile hitting the Odessa area. So an interesting development that took place yesterday, but also it's interesting the fact that the US and Turkey are not going to counter Russia's move in the Black Sea. So a lot of talk about, even if the U.S. was going to escort the ships to the Black Sea, there would be no insurance brokers, no insurance companies that would insure the ships entering into the ports. This has sent prices of wheat up by something like 6 or 9%, and I think that's true. I imagine that insurance companies, once this announcement came out, I imagine they're like, forget about this. We're not going to insure any of the ships that are going to enter Odessa. But I imagine that the United States, if they really wanted to escort ships into Odessa, they would find a workaround for the insurance problem. But the Russians took care of that issue by making sure that the Odessa port was not going to be able to function as a port to load up or to offload weapons, and then to load up the grain that doesn't really head to any of the countries that the agreement says the grain should go to, but actually ends up in the collective West. So that part of the agreement was not honored either. So trying to think what else. I think that's everything with regards to this story. This has definitely opened up the path for Russia towards Crimea. So, the collective West and the Zelensky regime, they do it to themselves. They do it to themselves because they have this obsession, not only with Crimea, but for launching these attacks, which really have no effect on the actual conflict, but they're just kind of headline grabbers, media headline grabbers, and they launch these attacks on Crimea and on Russian territory. The Russians, they've planned this out many steps ahead, and they know that they're going to give a warning, and when they give the warning, I'm sure there's some giant whiteboard somewhere in the Kremlin. They say, okay, we're going to warn them this time not to strike the bridge. But if they strike the bridge again, and then they have a flow chart and they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're going to prevent ships from entering Odessa port. We're going to dismantle the port itself so that even if the U.S. wanted to escort ships into the port, they won't be able to. And then And then as the media criticizes us for preventing grain from reaching these countries that need the food, and they say that we're going to starve the world, what we're going to do is we're going to offer free grain to these countries. So it's like the Russians, they've game planned this out on like a giant whiteboard, and they have all the moves plotted out in advance. Meanwhile, the Zelensky regime, they probably have their whiteboard, and it's probably sitting on a table, and they probably have like dollar bills and sugary stuff on that whiteboard anyway. Let's see here. Should we shift gears and talk about a Wall Street Journal article that came out the other day? And this WSJ article, it said that the Ukraine military is very upset with the collective West because the collective West, it delivered a whole bunch of tanks, but it didn't deliver any air support. It didn't deliver F16s. It didn't deliver proper air defense. And that is why the Zelensky regime has failed to make any breakthroughs in the big counter-offensive. Isn't that beautiful? The Kremlin. We'll walk up that way in a bit. So yeah, the Ukraine military is upset with the collective West now. But you know, when the collective West was delivering the Leopards, that was like all the hype. That was the wonder weapon. Remember all the photos and images of like Leopards, like moving into Russian territory. And I don't mean the tanks, I mean like the animal, the leopard, the cat, the leopard moving into like into the front lines, and the memes and the images were saying the Leopards are coming, Russia's going to be defeated. And there was all this hype around the Leopards, and then all this hype around the Challenger tanks. And the collective West was happy. The Zelensky regime was super happy. We're getting 300 tanks or 350 tanks. Game over. We're going to win this conflict. Now they're upset. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that they're upset because they're saying, well, you didn't give us F-16s. You gave us these Leopards, and these Leopards are blah. They're junk, blah, you know? These are useless. We want F-16s. And they admit that the air defense doesn't work. I thought that was an interesting admission. That the air defense systems, they want more air defense, they want proper air defense, which is an admission that the air defense, the Patriots, and all of this stuff, it's not working. The Russians have dismantled it very, very quickly, as is evidence in the fact that they're able to hit the Odessa port, and the Ukraine military can't do anything about it. The U.S. is going to give more weapons to Ukraine, and in this weapons package that they announced, they're going to be giving this Vampire system, which from what I understand is a system that can be mounted on pretty much any truck, the flatbed of any truck. And you only need like 1 or 2 people to operate the system. And from what I read, its basic use is to take out drones. It can be used to launch missiles, but its essential use is as a system to take out enemy drones. But the U.S. is going to be providing this Vampire system, and this is the new wonder weapon, I guess. So. Sweden and the Quran burning. Yesterday we had an incident in Iraq where the Swedish embassy was set on fire because of the burning of the Quran. And this has now been going on for how long now? 3 months? This book burning incident. And yesterday in Iraq, things really got out of control, and they stormed the embassy, the Swedish embassy, and they pretty much burned the embassy down. Trump Trump. I'm just scrolling through some of the quick notes that I made when I was on the metro. And so the metro, I took Biblioteca Lenina stop over there, the red line, and I walked this way to this spot. But as I was on the metro, I was just jotting down some thoughts that I had as to the stories that I would discuss, and the Trump story and the Hunter Biden story. What an interesting narrative that is unfolding in the United States. So the Biden White House, it looks like they're going to go after Trump now with the charge being seditious conspiracy. And from what I understand, the way they're going to go after Trump now is they're going to go after him with these charges, which they're going to then say that this prevents Trump from running for president. This nullifies his presidential run. And as they're going after Trump and trying to prevent him from running for president and most likely winning in 2024, at the same time that this is going on from the Biden White House, you have these hearings in hot Congress taking place, and you have these IRS whistleblowers, a lot of them, like 3 or 4 of them. A new one just came up the other day as well. Another whistleblower was identified as well yesterday. But you have all of these IRS whistleblowers coming out and testifying before Congress and saying that the Biden DOJ was protecting Hunter Biden. And with all of Hunter Biden's tax crimes and his gun charges and his plea deal, they're basically saying that the Biden White House, they went very, very soft on Hunter Biden, and they did everything that they could to protect Hunter Biden. So they're going after a former president in one instance, the Biden White House, and they're trying to prevent him from running for president, while at the same time, we're getting all kinds of information that the Biden White House was protecting Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. They were protecting his son. And during the congressional hearings, Marjorie Taylor Greene actually put up a photograph of Hunter Biden doing the nasty. Let's just put it that way. A very, very pornographic photo. Marjorie Taylor Greene showed it to Congress, and all of Congress was just absolutely shocked. How could you show this photo of Hunter Biden, of the president's son, here in Congress? How dare you? And they removed the photo. It's very, very unbecoming of a congresswoman to show this type of material of the president's son doing the dirty with, I don't even know who, whatever, doing nasty stuff. You can't show these photos in Congress, in this house. And you know that if this was reversed, and if it was Trump's kids who were doing these things, and it was on some laptop that was left at a laptop repair shop, and there were thousands of photos of Trump's kids doing this stuff, you know that that Congress and the Democrats, they would take these photos, blow them up, like enlarge them, and they would be like all over the walls of Congress. They would actually take the photos and probably put them on lampposts all throughout DC if this was reversed. You know that would be the situation if it was the other way around. So that's kind of like a pre-clown world before I get to my main clown world, and we're going to go for a walk as we talk about my clown world. But before I get to my clown world, let me do one more story, which I find to be relevant given Mike Pence's implosion. Let's go for a walk. During the leadership summit with Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson, he pressed Mike Pence about the Zelensky regime imprisoning religious leaders and Orthodox priests in Ukraine. And Mike Pence pushed back on Tucker Carlson's claim, and he said, no, I was in Kiev, and I spoke with Zelensky, and I spoke with a priest, and they said that they're not putting priests in prison, and the only priests that are going in prison are the ones that are helping Russia. That's what Pence told Tucker Carlson. And Pence, he plays it as if he's this very deeply religious person, right? That's his faith. His faith is everything. That's Pence's persona, right? He's super religious, a super devout Christian, and so he pushed back on Tucker Carlson's questioning during that leadership forum. Well, lo and behold, surprise, surprise, we have this article from Zero Hedge, which says Ukraine jails senior Orthodox cleric. Russia demands release. And they've put in prison cleric Metropolitan Pavlo, who is facing charges for voicing opinions deemed too pro-Russian. And he is a senior figure in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the UOC, the real church of Ukraine, the real recognized Orthodox Church. And it leads me to believe that when Mike Pence was in Kiev and he spoke to Zelensky and he spoke to this priest, and they assured him that they were not arresting religious leaders, I'm positive that Pence spoke to a priest of the heretical Orthodox Church of Ukraine, which is the made-up church from from Mike Pompeo, courtesy of Mike Pompeo. I got the mics confused. Easy to confuse them, Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo. A day or two after he says that Ukraine is not imprisoning priests, we get reports that Ukraine is imprisoning priests. So let's do a clown world, and we'll wrap this video up. And this clown world is coming from George Clooney. George Clooney, he wrote a column in The Economist magazine, and he said that the collective West, the United States, they have a unique opportunity at this moment to dismantle Wagner. That is what George Clooney wrote in The Economist. In a column in The Economist, Clooney and Prendergast is an author, John Prendergast, who also served on the National Security Council under Bill Clinton. Big surprise. So Clooney and Prendergast, they wrote an article in The Economist, and they described the private military company as one of Moscow's most successful foreign policy initiatives during the past decade, and an atrocity. Wagner has been offering security service to governments in Africa, the celebrities claimed. The group was protecting the regime in the Central African Republic in exchange for mineral concessions and a way to hijack a government. They promoted a report on Wagner's activities released by their NGO, The Sentry, which alleged the group seeks to disable multinational predatory networks. Clooney and Prendergast believe that the Wagner presence in Africa, which they described as a virus, will continue. However, the transition period can be used by Western nations to take action against both the operation and its originator. They should create an ad hoc coalition aimed at dismantling the group's business empire, building on lessons from similar efforts focused on Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, they suggested. So basically, Clooney, along with this deep state author, he's an author, but obviously he's got some connection to the government and to the permanent state. He was an advisor to Clinton. So these guys, they write an article in The Economist, and they call on the U.S. to dismantle Wagner, to go after Wagner. George Clooney. Makes me wonder about you, Mr. Clooney. Are you just an actor, or are you something more? This is the same Clooney, by the way, who supported the white helmets, didn't he? Didn't he like create a documentary, produce a documentary in support of the Al-Qaeda funded white helmets? This guy, man, George Clooney, man, George Clooney. Stick to acting, buddy. How did you get involved in these deep state narratives? Pushing these deep state narratives. Yeah, I think he did do a documentary on the white helmets, now that I think about it. I think Netflix actually picked it up. Yeah. And he's talking about going after Wagner now. These guys. Anyway, I think I'll end the video. TheDuran.locals.com. I'm almost at the Pushkin Museum, actually. Wow. Very cool. Moscow is an easy city to walk. Very, very easy city to walk around. So, TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram, and go to the Duran shop. Use the code Good Day. I'm wearing a Duran t-shirt today. And what else? Free Julian Assange. Free Pablo Gonzalez. Free Gonzalo Lira. People ask if I have any update on Gonzalo. I don't. Unfortunately, I don't have any updates. As I've said in videos in the past, my promise to everyone is that if and when I have an update, I will absolutely do a video and share it with everybody, believe me. But I just don't have anything to share, to report. But free Gonzalo Lira. Take care.